Hello again, guys. All right, so um, today we're going to be focusing on creating the database for our application. So initially, I had planned that I would build this particular database step by step, meaning when we started out, when we were going to move over to IntelliJ and work with the registration process, I was going to start off by creating the users tables, and then when we create accounts, then move over towards creating the accounts table. But I think might as well just create the whole database in this video because it's not that many tables. It's about four tables and then two views. Um, Technically, it's about six tables if you include the views as a table and so forth. So um, the database isn't that big, and so I think might as well just create all that we need within this video. So the first thing I'm gonna do is say drop database if exists, and then I'll say demo bank underscore v1. Now I'm only saying demo bank underscore v1 because I already have a database with that name. Here it is over here. So I'm gonna name it to underscore v1. Then here I'm gonna create it again. So create database demo bank underscore v1, and then so here we'll say use demo bank underscore p1. Okay, let me just separate these two. All right. So now that we're gonna start off with the users table. So let me just leave here. I don't know if you can see the comment there because I know with this white background it can get lost, but I'm just putting a comment there which says users table structure. And then here I'll say create table users, right? User ID will be int uh, underscore int auto increment, and then actually I was supposed to say not null here. Okay, then we need the first name, which is going to be varchar. I'm just going to set it to 50, also not null. Let me just copy this part here, last name. Okay, and then we need the email, so we're going to say email. This one we can change to 255. The other thing we need is the password, so we're going to say password, same thing, varchar 255. Right, then we're going to need a token, so it's going to be token. This one as well is going to be varchar 55, and then this can be null. And then we're going to also need a code, which is going to be an integer, and this also can be null. And then we need the verified. This one is going to be an integer. By default is going to be 0. Okay, and then verified. This is going to be date time, and then created at is going to be a timestamp. Updated at Oh, by the way, I forgot to set this as a primary key, so just say primary key at the top there. And then along with the email, let's just set that to unique as well. All right. And what else? So now we need to set the foreign key. Oh no, we don't need a foreign key here. This is fine. So I can remove that. Actually, I forgot something else here. Let's just say default to now. I'm doing this because for some odd reason, when I was testing with installing or registering users within the system, this wasn't shooting off, wasn't setting a default timestamp like the created at. So it stayed with a zero base value. And then in Java, when you use the repository to what you call it, the repository to what you call it to pull information, it basically checks if you set up your entities correctly. It basically checks all of the values within this field, and if there's a zero date value, it gives errors and whatnot. So I'm not sure yet why it would do that, but yeah. So I would recommend just setting a default value to now. All right, so now this is the users table, if I'm not mistaken. I think we got everything. And then now let's do the accounts table. So this is where we will store the bank accounts. So it's that what I mean. Let me actually name it as that. So let's say bank accounts table. Okay, so we can say create table accounts, and then what am I doing? And then in here we're gonna say account ID is an integer, not null, auto. Sorry, that's gonna be auto increment, and then we're gonna say user ID integer, right? And then what we need the account number. We can set this to an integer, but we can also say varchar 50. Actually, let's just say 100, not now. And then the account name, um, this as well can be varchar 50. And then the account type is going to be that either savings, check, or what you call it, or business account. So we can also set that to varchar 50. And then here we're going to say balance, and I'm going to set this to a decimal. Initially, I had set this to a double, but again with Java, I encountered some issues in regards to when, because by default, the account when it's first created, uh, it's gonna be of zero value. So when doing our checks, for example, when displaying this part here, for example, and it's obviously gonna be at zero. So what I did was I would check in the accounts if the account has a zero value, it's gonna display 00 obviously. But then if it doesn't, oh actually it's supposed to show this this default value that we're setting here to this balance amount. So when I set it to a double, it didn't want that, it didn't want the it doesn't accept a double value with a null value. So um so in the repository I had to use the decimal a variable in order to pull this information from the database. So, but you'll see what I mean once we start working with repositories. So for now, I would recommend using a decimal value, and then it'll obviously have two decimal places after that. Okay, and the next thing is I think we need to create it and update to that. So you can copy this, paste it there. it like that. So now we need a foreign key, um, which is going to be user ID. Though it doesn't make sense to say user ID, it should instead say customer, but you know what? It's fine. Let's just use that. And then it said references, um, users, user ID. Sorry, user ID. And then on delete cascade. Okay. Let me just give you some space here. Okay. Right, so that's the accounts table. If I'm not mistaken, that's all we need. The account ID, user ID, um, and then this is how we're going to link the user who's registering to the account, and then the account number, account name, account type, balance. I think that's all. Okay, so now we're going to create, I think we're going to create the transaction history table. So, okay, create. Okay, so here we'll say transaction ID, int, not null, and then auto increment, and that's it. And then we're going to say account ID, and then this is going to be an integer, and then we need transaction type. So remember, when we do a transaction here, payment, transfer, deposit, and but this is what's going to be stored within this field. Okay, so for that we can say varchar. Sorry, we can copy this. Okay, and then this is going to be the amount. Again, this is going to be a decimal. Um, this is going to be two decimals. Again, by default, well, we don't need to put a default because this won't store anything unless there's an account available. So in case, let's just leave it like that. And then the source, varchar 50, that's fine. What else? We need the status, right? So this is going to be either what you call it, success or failed. If the transaction failed or if it was a success. These can be null. Right, so that's the status, and then we need the reason code. So basically this is going to be um, something like insufficient funds, something like that, you know, right? So yeah, right, and then we need the timestamp. So here we're just going to select create to that. We don't need an update to that here. Create to that will be timestamp. Okay, what else? Yeah, I think now we can add the foreign key. Oh, by the way, don't forget to put the primary key here. Okay, and then the foreign key, I'm gonna copy this here. paste it there. Foreign key is going to be account ID, references, accounts, and then same field. Um, sorry, I made a mistake. It's supposed to be users, not user. So just make sure it's the same as that there. Okay, so I think that's all we need for the um, transaction table. So it's transaction ID, account ID, transaction type, amount, source, status code. Yeah. All right. So now we're gonna do the payments field. So it's gonna be right payments table structure. Okay. So right, it's payments, and then so there's going to be payment ID int not now auto increment, and then it's going to be a primary key. Okay, and then what we need is the account ID again. So in fact, might as well just copy the foreign key constraint, paste it there, and then here we'll just say account ID, and it's going to be an integer. Right, so we're going to need the beneficiary. I'm going to copy this varchar 50. This is going to be the beneficiary account number, and then you can say varchar. Let's say because it's going to be account number, it's going to be 255 just to be safe. Okay, and then what else? We need the amount, and this again is going to be a decimal. We need it to go about 2 places, and then again it can be null. And then what else? Oh yeah, we need the reference. So remember, in the payments form we have the the account holder, the beneficiary name, and then obviously the account ID will get that. Then we need the reference and the amount. So reference, I should say reference number because I think there's a preserved name for reference and stuff, something like that. So say that varchar, let's make that 100 just in case. All right, and then what else? We need the status, obviously. Actually, we need everything that's going to be there because it's going to be the same structure. Sorry about that. All right, and then foreign key obviously is going to be the account ID, so we don't need to stress about that. And then I think that's all we have. Chances are most likely I missed something. I don't know, but we will see once we get to work with the repositories if we've missed a field or whatnot. All right, so now what we need to create is the views. So the views we are going to use um, here within the payment history and the transaction history because um, we need to list the accounts that only belong to the user who's logged in. We can't show other users accounts. All right, so transaction history. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is say select um, Then here I'm going to say t dot transaction ID, and then I'll say a dot account ID, and then u dot user ID. Okay, and then from there we need the transaction type. Sorry, it's t dot transaction type, and then we need the amount, so it's t amount, and then we need the source, so it's t dot source, t dot status, t dot reason code, and then we need t dot created at, right? And then we're gonna say from t, and then we're gonna say inner join, and then we're gonna say account as a, let's say on, apologies, I made a comma there, not supposed to be there, right? And we're gonna say on where t dot account ID equals a dot account ID. Okay, so make sure to use that alias there that we set up at the top, right? And then we're gonna say inner join users as you, right? And then we're gonna say on a dot what is it at the top here? User ID, right? A dot user ID equals to u dot user ID. I think that's all we need for the. So obviously this is not going to work now because we did the thing. Um but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it as it is before we set up so before we create the view. So I want these tables to be created first, and then after that this will run to see if the tables come out exactly how I set them up within the tables above. So now let's create the payments history. So payment uh, right, so we're gonna do the same thing, select, and then we're gonna say p dot payment ID, and then we're gonna say account a dot account ID u dot user ID. Then we need the beneficiary, so it's p dot bene. I think that's how I named it, beneficiary. Okay, let me copy this beneficiary account ID, I mean account number, and then say p dot that. Okay, there's going to be p dot amount All right, and then p dot status, p dot what else? Or reference. So it's going to be reference number. Okay, and then p dot reason code, and then p dot created at. Okay, and then we're gonna say from. I think that's all the fields we need. Account ID, yeah. All right, so we're gonna say that from um, payments as p in a join, accounts as a. Okay, accounts as a, and then we're gonna say on p dot what is it, account ID, right, equals to a dot account ID, right, in a join, users as a. Okay, so it's going to be a dot user ID equals to u. Hey, I made a mistake. It's not going to be, it's supposed to be u. Sorry. So then user ID. Okay. So I think that's all we need for the views, right? So yeah, that's basically it. That's all the tables we need. So now we need to just run this particular um, script, and if there are no errors, these two should show up as tables, what you call it, down here. So let's run it and see if there's no issues. Okay, there's a problem here. Create accounts, account ID. um, okay, I forgot to set this as a primary key. Primary key. Okay, primary key, primary key, primary key. All right, let's try again. All right, so as you can see, okay, demo bank payments doesn't exist. Well, let me see. Let's close this. Oh, made a spelling error there. It's payments. Okay, some of you probably saw that, so apologies again. Let's try again. All right, so as you can see, both the tables are now showing up, as you can see there. So now we can proceed to create these two views as our, these two this script over here as a view. So we can just do that by saying create view. We can call this v underscore transaction history. So make sure you put that v at the beginning there, because again it represents that this is a view, and also we have a table called transaction history, so we don't want them to clash. All right, that's it. And then here we're gonna say um, v underscore payments. Again, same thing. Just make sure that you put that v underscore there to show that this is a view, I think that's standard practice if I'm not mistaken. And then also remember there's a payments table, so you don't want them to clash. Okay, so I can highlight these two and then click that. So when we want to select anything from these two tables, all we have to do is say select all from uh, v v underscore v underscore transaction history, right? And then the other one is select all from payments. Sorry, v underscore payment history. Did I say payments history? Oh, sorry, v underscore payments. I should have named it payment history actually, but it's fine. In any case, if we select from these two, see v underscore payment history, same thing here. So at least now, this seems. Let me see. This seems shorter than I remember. Am I missing anything here? Not. In any case, it's fine. In any case, I think yeah, that's it for the database table. We don't need much. I wanted to initially build it step by step, but I felt that there's not that many tables, and so this should be fine. The last thing we need to do is add privileges to this particular user. I mean, for privileges for this database. So we come. Oh, by the way, I'm using MySQL Workbench. You might be using a different utility. I'm not sure if you're using PHP or the same utility, or if you're using the command line. But um, yeah, whichever way you are accessing this database, just make sure you add privileges to your what you call it, to your database or schema. All right, so I'm just going to say add, which is demobank underscore v1. We're going to say okay. We're going to give it all the privileges there, and then just say apply, and then that should be it. So yeah, we should be able to access this database from when we start working with Java. um, yeah, I think that's it for what we need. All right, guys, so that's it for the video. Again, if you've liked what you've seen so far, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll be seeing you guys within the next video. All right, cheers for now.